friends, welcome to West Bloomfield 911. I'm Officer Rick, and on behalf of Chief Mike Patton and my brothers and sisters in the West Bloomfield Police Department, we are so glad that you tuned us in. And speaking about brothers and sisters in the police department, we have a good friend and a brother in the PD, Officer Lance O'Keefe.
Good to be here.
How are you, Lance?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Glad that you're here.
Me too.
All right, well listen, don't run away.
Okay.
We're going to highlight one of our other brothers in law enforcement. We do that segment, Corner Spotlight, and we're going to highlight Robbie Thornsberry.
Sounds great.
So folks, if you look on the screen, you will see the smiling countenance of Police Officer Robbie Thornsberry. Robbie's currently assigned to Midnight Road Patrol, so I don't get to see Robbie, and that's probably a good thing for me anyway, not being on Midnights, but he does a great job. He's one of the newer guys here. He started in July of 2015. But Robbie comes to us with some experience. He was a fraud investigator in South Carolina for 5 years prior to coming to the West Bloomfield Police Department. I know, we thought it was kind of odd too, leaving warmth and coming to cold, but I think that happens when you get married. Robbie, I understand. And we are glad to have him. Good young officer. Really smart, real intelligent. He's got a great personality, and we are so pleased that he decided to join us. Robbie's favorite food? Chicken. Robbie, I'm right behind you. I like chicken also, but I know it's not good for him, but I like that fried stuff. Well, coming from South Carolina, it's got to be fried for you, I would assume. Correct me if I'm wrong. And he said that his favorite book, and I was very surprised that he told me this, it's Where the Red Fern Grows. It's a 1961 children's novel by Wilson Rawls. And I've got to tell you, Robbie, I've never read that, but I looked it up on the internet. It looks like a good book. And his favorite movie, another one that I have never seen, though I have seen bits and pieces of it, never saw the whole thing, Four Brothers, a 2005 movie starring Mark Wahlberg. And as you might expect from someone from South Carolina, Robbie's favorite music is country and western. And again, makes sense, someone from either the UP or South Carolina. He loves to hunt, and he loves to fish, and he loves golf. Now, Robbie's a great guy, and in our business, and Lance can attest to this, if we're not busting your chops, then we don't like you. So we're always kid Robbie about having that southern drawl. And when he came up, I thought he was from Toledo because of that, but he knew I was kidding. When I asked him about his favorite quote, he said is, "Set your mind on things above, not on earthly things." Great quote, Robbie, and comes from a great book, The Letter of St. Paul to the Colossians, chapter 3, verse 2. So we want to say goodbye to our brother, Police Officer Robbie Thornsberry. We're going to turn the light off, the corner spotlight off, and Robbie, we'll see you on the road. Be safe, my friend. And folks, if you see him, stop him and say hello. Folks, before we come to our guest, I want you to keep in mind that oftentimes there are a lot of people out there that want to scam you. And one of the popular scams I get called on frequently now is when someone purports to be from the IRS or from the FBI or even maybe from Google or Microsoft, and they'll send an email message to someone letting them know that they need personal information. If they're saying they're from a law enforcement agency, they may threaten you with a warrant arrest or something of that nature. Listen, that's just a scam. If they're saying they're from Google or Microsoft, they're saying we're going to fix your computer because something's wrong. Again, it's a scam. None of those organizations, no legitimate organization, is going to contact you via email and ask for personal information unless you have contacted them first and you know who they are. And just as a matter of course, if you receive an email from anybody and you don't know them, just delete it. Don't even click on it, because even if they're not going to ask for personal information, that email may send a virus into your computer, destroying your personal files and even maybe destroying or damaging your hard drive. So again, if you don't know who they are, don't even click on it, just delete it. Folks, we are going to come right back, so don't go away. We'll be back with our very special guest, my brother in blue, Officer Lance O'Keefe.
You're watching West Bloomfield 911 on Civic Center TV, a service of the Greater West Bloomfield Cable Communications Commission. For more information or to watch episodes on demand, visit civiccentertv.com/WB911. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home.
The West Bloomfield Police Foundation raises money to help those who protect and serve the community. Whether it's emotional or financial support, the foundation provides a helping hand to officers, their families, and those in the community. For more information on the West Bloomfield Police Foundation, contact Kurt Lawson at 248-975-8900 or visit wbpolicefoundation.org.
Hello, friends. We are back. And again, I'd like to introduce Officer Lance O'Keefe of the West Bloomfield Police Department. Lance, it's great having you on, buddy.
It's good to be here.
You know, folks, today's show, we wanted to kind of focus on the fact guys like Lance are not only men of service, serving in law enforcement, but we wanted to focus on officers who have a military background. And Lance, you served in the Marine Corps.
I did. That's correct.
And why don't you give us a little bit of history about that?
Sure.
How long you spent in the Marines, what your duties were, and give us a background on that, would you please?
Sure. Well, I went in right after high school in 2004. From there, I went to boot camp in San Diego, California. And after boot camp, I was stationed in North Carolina. I received specialized training in the engineer field, but mostly we did security type work, especially with the war going on in Iraq. They needed boots on the ground to handle that task, and so that's what I did. I was deployed to Iraq twice, and I got out in 2008, and then I went to school for law enforcement, and this is kind of the direction I wanted to go in, so I was fortunate to find employment with a good department like this one. Let's
talk a little bit about being in Iraq. How long did you spend in
total?
Iraq?
Oh, in Iraq.
Yeah.
Well, each of my deployments was 7 months.
7 months.
So a total of 14 months. Yes, sir.
And how long were you in the Marine Corps?
I was in the Marine Corps for 4 years.
Okay. Now, why did you choose the Marine Corps? I mean, there's all the branches of service serve a function. We need each one of them. And I know just as there is in law enforcement, there's a little bit of good-hearted jesting that goes on between the different branches.
Oh,
was there a history of Marine Corps in your family?
There's not, no. I guess I was the first one to kind of branch off and do that. I do have a very few family members who served in the military, but none in the Marine Corps, no.
Okay.
And I don't know why. I guess I was drawn to the Marines. Maybe just the recruiter grabbed me up before the other ones did. But I guess after seeing, maybe their uniform or, hearing what they're all about, I had to do it after seeing and hearing about it. So
you were drawn to them.
I was drawn to it, yes, sir.
Now, let me ask you, my cousin who retired from the Michigan State Police was also in the Marine Corps, and one of my wife's brothers, her youngest brother, was also in the Marine Corps. Now, you guys always take that beautiful picture in the dress blues.
Yes, sir.
Now, do they issue that uniform, or is that something you have to buy?
I think they used to, but when I was in, we had to purchase it.
Okay.
Yes, but everybody does, of course, because they want to have that uniform and they want to be seen in it.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's
a sharp-looking uniform.
It's a purchase worth making.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Now, you still have that?
I don't. No.
Really?
I don't. No.
Oh, I thought that's something you'd keep.
I had the hat. I have the the white hat with
Yeah.
the gold eagle globe and anchor on the front of
Yeah.
it. I kept that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have the whole uniform anymore. So.
Okay. Well, let's talk about some of your duties in the Marine Corps. Let's start with the duties here stateside.
Okay.
Because you were there for 4 years.
Yes, sir.
But almost 2 of those years, or actually over 2 of those years, were here in the States.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go through some of the duties
Sure.
that you performed for the Marines.
Mm-hmm. Well, stateside, we did a lot of training. I think the time that I was in, a lot of our training was geared towards Iraq. That was a big focus.
Okay.
for all military branches at the time that I was in. So we did a lot of pre-deployment training. Everything was geared towards deploying to Iraq. We spent a lot of time in 29 Palms, which is in the Mojave Desert area of California. And we did a lot of weapons training, vehicle training, just training with your teammates or your company.
Right.
And I guess that translates into law enforcement, just given the fact that when you're dealing with weapons, there's a great deal of discipline that goes in that, great deal of safety, and professionalism as well.
Sure.
So you're dealing with dangerous things, and it's kind of translates into law enforcement out here.
Well, especially nowadays after, we all know that we're not immune to terrorist attacks.
No,
whether they
not.
be domestic or from overseas.
Right.
And there was the most recent one, obviously, was in California not too long ago. So a lot of the weapons that you're facing overseas, unfortunately, some of that's brought here now.
Yes, yeah, very unfortunately.
Yeah. And I assume they had you in the Mojave Desert because they wanted you to get used to the warm weather.
That is, one of the reasons. Yeah, they call it, I think they call it climatizing yourself, so getting used to that dry heat.
Yeah.
And the triple-digit degree temperatures.
Right,
So.
right. Now, you're originally from a little further north of here, so
I am.
That weather was a little hard for you.
I actually kind of enjoyed it.
Did you?
The humidity is what really gets me in the summertime here,
yeah.
and you really don't have to deal with that when you're in a desert climate.
That's
so
true.
it's all dry heat.
That's
so,
true.
but it is hot.
Yes.
You just drink a lot of water and you sweat a lot. So.
Now, and you were out there having used to wartime conditions in Iraq, so you're out there in full uniform, backpack. I mean, you're ready to go.
Yes, sir. Yeah, all your protective gear, bulletproof vest and Kevlar helmet and all that stuff.
Right.
So, yeah, but the majority of the Marines out there, hiking up all the gear, they're young, strong guys, and you
Just
have all
as
the
you
training.
were.
Right? Exactly. Yeah.
And you still are.
Yeah, I try to be. Try
Yeah,
to keep myself
yeah.
in shape.
Well, yeah, we could tell. and you're still a young guy too, by my standards anyway.
Yeah,
So,
I would consider myself young still.
absolutely, absolutely. Now, other than the training, were you guys, or at least you specifically, were you assigned to any other special duties while you were here?
You're talking about here at the department?
No, in the Marine Corps in the States.
Oh, okay. No, not really. I had received specialized training in the fuel engineering field, but like I said, with the war in Iraq, a lot of that stuff went to the wayside, and most of our focus was on security type stuff. What I did in Iraq, we did a lot of entry control points, so civilians in Iraq driving through or certain points on the road, we check for vehicles, any contraband in the vehicles, if there's explosives in the vehicles, weapons in the vehicle. And in addition, we did what's called a QRF. It's a quick reaction force. And so we were assigned to a certain area or a certain camp or base, and we were in charge of handling any extreme incidents that take place on a moment's notice.
Okay.
And then in addition to that, we also did towers. We would guard certain areas or bases, and we would do tower duty or watch duty.
Let's talk a little bit about that if we can. Obviously, I don't know if you can tell us everything there, and certainly don't want to give away any secrets, but where were you in your 2 tours of duties? Were you in the same areas of Iraq, or were you assigned to different areas?
Different areas. The first tour I did was in the Al-Qaim area, so that would be the northwest end of Iraq. It's right on the Syrian border.
Okay.
And we operated primarily in that area, right on the Syrian border. My second deployment, I was deployed to Al-Assad, which is a large air base, and we operated within that area of Iraq. Both were in the Al-Anbar province, but that's a very big area, so there was some space between my first deployment and my second deployment.
Now, when you guys were over there, was there a particular political events going on at that time that were specific to that time period, which made it maybe more difficult for you guys, or was your focus for being there? You know, there have been times when
right.
it's been ramped up or it's been down and stuff like that.
Right. There was an election, I think for both of my deployments, there was a lot of diplomatic controversy. And I remember that there was, you know, they were trying to stage the elections for both of my deployments. I really didn't follow that too closely, being such a young guy.
Right.
I really didn't pay much attention. I just did my job.
Right.
But yeah, I do remember there was something to do with elections for
Okay.
both my deployments. But I think that was an ongoing issue for Iraq for essentially the whole time we were over there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And it really had no bearing on how you did your job anyway.
Right.
You know, you had a function, a purpose, and a mission, and
Correct.
you're going to do it regardless of what the politics is over there.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now you spent your 4 years in the Marine Corps, and when you came back after your second tour of duty, how much time did you have left in the Marine Corps before you were discharged?
I had less than a year.
Okay. Now, were you still in that final year, having done 2 tours in a war zone? Were you still, your training and everything, was it still getting ramped up in case you had to go back, or did they now focus on different things for you?
Yes, it still was ongoing.
Okay.
There was still that possibility that I would be forced to extend my contract
Sure.
and to deploy again. And there was actually a scare just a few months before getting out. We were told to get all of our gear ready and that we were going to meet at the armory to pull our weapons, and we were shipping out to Iraq. And at that point, you kind of think, well, I only have a few months.
Right.
Well, why am I going? But you know, you do what you're told, and
Yes.
you're all there for a reason. You're there to
Yes.
serve, so there's
Yeah.
not too much complaining going on, and you know there's a job to do. But fortunately, we didn't deploy that night. It was kind of just they put us on alert, and I was able to get out when I was supposed to.
Well, now let me ask you a little bit about that, being in the Marine Corps and being overseas. We had talked about when we were doing Robbie's spotlight, the jocularity and the fun that goes on between officers. That we kind of make fun of each other and joke with each other, and we
yes.
all know it's good-hearted. And you had similar experiences in the Marine Corps between not just the guys in the Marines, but the different branches of service. Is that correct?
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. You got to have thick skin
Yeah.
when you're in this profession, law enforcement and military. And I think it's almost endearing when you're getting picked
Sure.
on. It sounds crazy,
Yeah.
but it really is. You know, if you're not getting picked on, something's wrong.
They don't like you.
Right.
Yeah.
So it really is endearing.
Yeah.
And it's something that I'm used to in the Marine Corps, and kind of translates over to our profession here. And I think it just has to do with the kind of situations we deal with on a daily basis. And you kind of have to have an outlet to kind of let go of some of that. And
Let the pressure out.
right, exactly. And kind of picking on each other and
Yeah.
having good fun with each other is kind of that way we release our stress, I
Right.
think. So.
Well, and because you know, okay, guys are joking with you and maybe they're saying stuff to you, but you know they've got your back.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
without a doubt.
Now, did you find also, if you don't mind me asking, being in a war zone in Iraq, and of course there was, you know, probably every branch of the service represented in some capacity. Probably a lot of people don't even realize the Coast Guard is goes overseas quite often. Did you find that it helped not just unite the Marines there, but the different branches of service as well together, knowing, hey, we're all in the same boat here?
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did work a lot with the Navy, with the Army. And so, yeah, you realize that, you know, you're all in it together, you know, and you go back to like you give people a hard time. And yeah, there's some sort of, there's a lot of joking going on between the
Sure.
branches of service, and, you know, the Marines will dog the Army and the Army will dog the Marines.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, you see that you're all in it together. Your mission is all the same, and you're all sacrificing, you know, the same. So.
Well, let's talk about how that translated to law enforcement, because I commend men and women such as yourself. You gave 4 years of your life to the Marine Corps in the United States, serving in, not everyone goes overseas, but you in particular went overseas. And yet when you came back, you said, you know what, I want to trade my Marine Corps uniform in for a police officer's uniform. What's the mindset? Why did you want to get back into a, granted we're not military, but we are paramilitary?
Correct. Well, having been out for, you know, a few months from the military, I knew I had to get back either into the military or I had to get into law enforcement. It was something I wanted to do, but it just reinforced it that much. Having been out of the military, you realize that transitioning into civilian life isn't as easy as you may have thought. I know nearing the end of my contract in the Marine Corps, you kind of have this grass is greener on the other side complex, and you tell yourself, well, when I get into civilian life, I'm going to do all this cool stuff, and I don't have to worry about being told where to be and how to look, and there's a lot of rules and regulations that go with that. So the thought of kind of taking off the cape, so to speak, is enticing. But you realize that you can take the man out of the military, but you can't take the military out of the man.
Right.
And I realized that fairly quickly. In law enforcement was just that, it's a paramilitary organization. You have that same camaraderie. You had essentially the same mission, the mission to serve, same professionalism, and it's just that sense of duty, I guess, that you always have. So.
Now let's talk a little. You took the Marine Corps uniform off, and you're not from the local area here. How did you end up in West Bloomfield?
Well, West Bloomfield actually contacted me.
Really?
That's
I didn't know that.
I took a test that's used. It's kind of a pre-employment test for law enforcement, pretty much across the state of Michigan, and I scored well on it, and I was contacted by West Bloomfield. And at that time, you're right, I'm from Midland, so about an hour and 45 minutes north of here, and I didn't even know where West Bloomfield was. But I did a little bit of research, and I seen that it was a great community, a great agency to work for, and I came down and I did an interview, and the rest is history.
Yeah. Now you hired in what year?
I hired in 2013.
Okay. So you've got almost 3 years of service here in West Bloomfield.
I do.
Now, some of the things, as you said, are very similar to military and law enforcement. One, we both serve and protect.
We do.
In the Marine Corps or in the military, we're serving against external aggression, and to a certain extent now, unfortunately, in the times that you've hired in as a law enforcement officer versus the time I hired in, our function is the same, but yet some of the focus has changed.
That's correct.
We're still fighting against some external aggression that comes on our land. And you have a uniform very similar to what you wore in the Marine Corps. And as you said, some of the attitudes and traditions, as we all know, in the law enforcement are very military based. What are some of the differences, though, that you found in law enforcement versus serving in the military that maybe were a little difficult to, in your mind to put together?
Well, some of the differences, and I see this as a good thing, is I think law enforcement today is very professional, and with the military, there's a lot of professionalism in the military.
Sure.
However, I went into the Marine Corps. I was 18 years old. I was straight out of high school, and so you have the majority of the military as these young men who, they get out of high school and they go in and they're looking for action. So they haven't developed their professional self as much as maybe in law enforcement. You have like a younger crowd in the military, so to speak. And I think the law enforcement does a good job of selecting good candidates. The process of hiring into an agency is really rigorous these days. There's background checks and interviews, and they really do select the cream of the crop, so to speak. And I think so you see a little bit higher professionalism in law enforcement, and I think that's essential to doing a good job. The supervision in law enforcement isn't as tough, I guess. In the military, there's always somebody that's telling you what to do, where to go, how to look. And in here, it's on your own.
Right.
You have to really take responsibility for yourself.
A lot of independence.
There's a lot of independence, a lot of discretion and authority when it comes to law enforcement, and you almost have to just embody that professionalism that much more to keep yourself from doing anything you're not supposed to do, and from in just doing a good job as a law enforcement officer. So,
well, Lance, we're just about done and run out of time. I want to thank you for your service.
Well, thanks for having
in the
me.
Marine Corps.
It was my pleasure.
And I want to thank you also for your service here in West Bloomfield. For an older guy like me that's nearing the end of the line, it's a great peace of mind, because this has been home for 25 years. It's a great peace of mind to me to know that there are good young men and women such as yourself coming up through the ranks that will represent the township and the police department in a professional and honorable way. And I thank you for all you've done.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Don't leave, Lance. We do want to honor a fallen officer, and and it's appropriate that we honor an officer who was killed overseas and having you served overseas as well. Folks, if you'll see on your screen, and please remember in your thoughts and your prayers, Special Agent Peter W. Taub of the United States Air Force Office of Special Investigations. Special Agent Taub was killed in the line of duty on December 21st, 2015. He and 5 other special agents from that agency were killed in the line of duty, as well as 2 airmen. These men and women were killed by a suicide bomber in a village near Bagram Air Base. That's a tough one to get out. Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan. These agents and airmen were conducting a joint patrol of part of an investigation when the bomber drove a motorcycle into them and detonated the device. So please remember these heroic men and women, both in the civilian part as law enforcement officers serving our country overseas, and our military officers as well. In particular, Special Agent Peter W. Taub of the United States Air Force Office of Special Investigations. Keep him in your thoughts and your prayers, his family and his colleagues in his unit. And we say, brother, rest in peace. Your memory will never be forgotten. Lance, we want to thank you once again for coming on the show.
Thank you, Rick.
Be safe on the road, my friend.
Will do.
Okay?
Thank you.
I hope you have a long and happy career here.
Thanks.
Folks, just as Lance served in the community, both as a Marine and a police officer here, and I know he's great at reaching out and helping people, we want you to reach out to us, and we want to reach out to you. The West Bloomfield Police has a couple of social media contacts, so please follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook. And don't forget to get that Nixle contract and get some information from us that might be pertinent to your community. And also you can join us on crime mapping to find out what's going on in the township. Folks, we want you to keep in touch with us here at West Bloomfield 911. Remember, you can watch us on Civic Center TV as well as civiccentertv.com on demand. And folks, take care of each other. Be safe. Love one another. Remember, tomorrow is promised to no one. I'll see you again on West Bloomfield 911.